Mother-in-law thinks Diet Coke is poison, so takes it from dear daughter by force. Mother-in-law completely lost my trust. We asked her to watch our dear daughter, Charlotte, on Friday and Saturday. On Friday evening, mother-in-law was supposed to pick Charlotte up from our house and watch her until my dear husband and I returned from a work conference, a few hours drive away from our home. Charlotte also ended up not feeling well in the morning, and luckily mother-in-law was available to watch her for the whole day. During the day, she noticed we had some Diet Coke in the fridge. When we returned from the first day of the conference, we received an earful about the dangers of Diet Coke. She claims Diet Coke is the devil's poison, and drinking it will cause Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, headaches, ADD and death. I was stunned. Apparently, my dear husband had heard all of this before because he just says, "Can we please not do this again?" I, somewhat confused, say, "But most things are okay in moderation." No, that was that, and we moved on. Later, my dear husband explained that when he was younger his triglycerides were extremely high, and so, cutting drinks with high sugar contents was required. At the time, his favorite drink was Coke, and he drank like 7 Cokes a day. So, mother-in-law forced him to stop drinking it until his triglycerides got back to normal. When he got older and moved away, he started drinking the diet version instead. Charlotte also liked Diet Coke, so I am guessing she asked mother-in-law for one, which led to her preaching to dear husband and I. Mother-in-law returned early Saturday morning, so that we could go to day 2 of the conference. The conference went well, but when we returned to our home, Charlotte was sitting at our dining room table visibly, obviously upset. I asked mother-in-law what was wrong, and she said everything was fine. She is just upset because I threw out all the Diet Coke. What? I was so annoyed. Like, what the hell? I had just bought 2 12-packs Friday morning. To add insult to injury, she grabbed a case of bottled water from our garage and put it in the fridge, as if we are supposed to be grateful. I didn't even feel like dealing with her, so I just went to check on dear daughter. Literally seconds after seeing her face I noticed a small scrape on her cheek. Mother-in-law, who is still in the same room, sees me inspecting her cheek, and says, "That is exactly why I tossed the Diet Coke. Kids cannot handle the damage it does to your brain, and she hurt herself because of it." Okay, alright, sure. I was slightly annoyed, so at this point I didn't want to listen to mother-in-law speak anymore. I picked up Charlotte and took her to my bedroom where dear husband was. I asked her to explain what happened, and Charlotte told us that she got a Diet Coke from the fridge and asked mother-in-law to open it for her. Mother-in-law ripped the can from Charlotte's hands and hit her in the face in the process. I was dumbfounded. I was furious. I was very confused. Dear husband, who was also upset, went downstairs and immediately told mother-in-law to leave, and she did. We took Charlotte to an express care to get her checked out, and it was determined she was fine, just a scrape. I don't know what to do about mother-in-law though. This happened a while ago, so dear husband and I have had time to calm down. Dear husband has forgiven her, but I am still so angry with mother-in-law. I just can't bring myself to understand her actions. She is usually a just yes, and has been supportive in general, but I can't forgive this. It is beyond the scrape. Mother-in-law lied to me about the injury, and asked Charlotte to lie to us about the injury. Dear husband thinks mother-in-law should still be allowed to babysit, but I am not comfortable with that. Maybe, in time, mother-in-law can still see Charlotte with supervision. I just don't know. Am I overreacting? Tomorrow mother-in-law finds out my family has money, when she can't even afford a hotel room. Be gentle, I'm quite close to losing my crap, and moving to Costa Rica, so mother-in-law is crap with money. I jokingly have called her Dave Ramsey's worst nightmare. Always spending more than she has, won't even open her mail, and just lets bills go to collections, etc. So of course she can't afford a hotel room when she comes to visit for wedding things, but she could afford a Caribbean cruise a month ago. I digress. So she's staying with us. Here's the rub. My grandma passed when my mom was pregnant with me, and left me a bit of money in the form of stock shares that have grown over 25 years. With this money, I purchased a house which is large enough to raise a family in. When FH and I get married he will be in the deed as well. It's a very lovely home, and also the source of my anxiety. It's much nicer than the home mother-in-law lives in. My parents also live in a nice home, and drive recent model cars, all paid for in full as I was raised to do. No shade if you don't, but that's how my family always handled our money. Mother-in-law calls, and asks to borrow money constantly, so I have been dreading this day for 4 years. Tomorrow, she finally finds out that we have money. I do not think she'll handle this well. When FH was growing up, she spent money on cars rather than food for him. He bought his own food at the convenience store just so he could eat, and she would yell at him for not sharing with his siblings. So in my mind this woman is out her damn mind to come to us for money as she always does, but she did so even when we were broke. before I found out about my inheritance, so now I fear she'll be full steam ahead trying to get every last cent she can from us because she can't get ahead. I can handle her asking for money. No is a complete sentence. But what the hell do I say when she asks why my bridal shower is at a country club, and why I live in such a nice home compared to the one FAH was raised in? How do I respond? End note. I see people's financial situations all day long. I do not have, and will never have, anything against poor people, but don't go spending money eating out every night, going on fancy vacations, and maxing out credit cards, and then say you don't have enough to feed your kids that are still at home. In my book, once you ask me for money, I get to decide if you're responsible enough to get an interest-free loan from me. She isn't. There are plenty of my clients who I would love to help out with financial aid or advice, because they genuinely struggle. Mother-in-law makes more than me, and still needs a loan because she can't prioritize? Nah son. End rant. Again, I appreciate that people come from different financial situations, but also, again, I have nothing against people who are down on their luck or make a lower income. I help those people for a living. But if you make six figures in a local area, drive new cars, take vacations twice a year, and still make your children hoard food in case you can't feed them, then F you, and have a nice day. Children shouldn't have to realize at age 10 that mommy would rather drive a nice car than feed them. Mother-in-law is creepy, and acts like I am not my son's mom or my husband's wife. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law are currently staying, but are returning home today. Long story short, our relationship is strained, and they treat me like they are obliged to talk to me most of the time. I got out of the hospital a few hours before they arrived. This has meant a good chunk of the visit I have been in bed resting, so dear husband has taken care of dear son who is 5, but he had to work Friday and Monday. Today, I had a doctor appointment on Friday that I had to go to. I can't drive at present due to the pain, so was planning on picking dear son up from school early since my appointment was just before he finished and I wouldn't be back in time. Dear husband was also fairly sure mother-in-law wouldn't mind driving my car around for all of this. I asked mother-in-law if she could drive me. Fine, right? Nope. At the time I didn't quite get it, but she made a huge deal about leaving him in school to finish, and she would pick him up in my car. I would catch a bus to appointment. Should also mention the problem that had me in the hospital was painful and I was still in a lot of pain, but didn't quite grasp all of this a few days ago. Dear husband was also highly confused why I let them take my car, but not take me to the doctors, but alas, pain I guess. I concede that letting him stay, and having them pick him up was ideal, and less disruptive. After we went to put mother-in-law down as okay to pick up, she got back in car, and says to sister-in-law we are on the list. They behaved like it was some monumental thing. All of this didn't click until this morning. I wake up, and see dear husband off to work. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law will be leaving before he gets home, and their behavior always changes after he leaves. Mother-in-law starts to get dear son ready and I'm like, it's still early and I can do this. Mother-in-law, oh that's okay. We want to take him to school today, so you just stay here and relax. Click. Mother-in-law hangs up before I could even respond. Suddenly a lot from this visit hits me. The way they talk over me when I'm trying to tell my son something or make little jabs about don't worry, mommy can't be mad because I said it's okay. The way they've actively seemed to thoroughly enjoy that I've been unwell, and out of the frame a lot. The weird way she rubbed dear husband knee on the couch as he was giving me a cuddle. He had to ask her to stop because it was gross lol. But most importantly, the other morning mother-in-law was snoring obnoxiously on the couch, and suddenly woke up. She said my son's name, and then said mommy's going home on Monday. I'm going to miss you, son's name. So I put my foot down, and tell them that actually I will take dear son to school on my own today as I have to go straight to an appointment afterwards anyway, but I'll be back in time to take them to the airport. LOL at the cat butt face she gave me. So they are also coming off the list today also because it has thoroughly creeped me out, and annoyed me. I am counting down the seconds until they go home. Oh, and I should also add that when I said I'd take him alone today, she tried to say she didn't mind driving me to the school, and my appointment. Nah, you didn't want to the other day to get some weird gratification where you felt like you were playing mom, so not today. Lady's sister-in-law is also very much like her mother. WTF mother-in-law. So I'm super asexual, like, the idea of sex with a human grosses me out. I tried with a guy, who was the most understanding dude to not have sex ever, and he went maybe you're a lesbian. So a lesbian friend and I decided to give it a go. She was great about it. Nope, still grossed out. She said maybe you're asexual. She was right. My mom? Awesome. When I came out to her she got me a vibe, and it was ace flag colors. Because hell yeah, nothing else. She's asked for some clarification on what asexual means, but beyond that, she gets that I'm just not into it. The mother-in-law on the other hand, She does not get it, and like everything she doesn't get, it must be bad/wrong, or abdong if you get the reference. Also, a solid reminder that I don't tell her crap. But my dad was also not on an info diet at the time, so I told him. She tried everything to get me to admit I just hadn't had good sex yet. Well, did you try sex this way? Here's a copy of the Kama Sutra. That should help. Maybe you need a sex therapist. Well, your dad and I ended that one real quick. I do not want to hear about my parents' sex lives. She one time dragged me to a therapist she'd heard of that helped people with sexual dysfunction, and then sat in on the session. That backfired because when I told the woman I was ace, and this wasn't my idea, she told mother-in-law off. Then this morning I got a text from a dude. So when do you want to meet up? Then another. And another. In all, since midnight last night I've gotten more than 20 texts. All from guys who think I'm near where the mother-in-law is. She is catfishing them on Tinder, as me, trying to convince them to have sex with me. One even sent me a screenshot of the profile. The pictures are probably 10 years old, before I got sick, and when my hair was long. Most were pissed at me, because of course it's my fault. Rolling eyes face. A few were really shocked. Because WTF. And all of them got it when I told them I didn't live anywhere near them, and sent them a pic of me fat, with short hair, and my pump. Yeah, I've messaged the folks from Tinder asking them to take care of this. Until then, I've made an auto-response text on my phone, and changed my voicemail. And none of these guys know where I am living. BTW. Just. WTF mother-in-law, what the actual F? Also, Tinder just deleted the account, and blacklisted the fake Facebook she made to verify the damn account. Because of course she did. I've gotten 10 texts since then, and they've all been blocked. Mother-in-law, and not wanting dear husband and I to spend quality time with dear daughter. So because of some terrible events these past few months, dear husband and I figured spending some quality time with our daughter was needed, which isn't too hard. Dear husband is off of work. I can stay at home whenever I feel because my job doesn't require me to go in 24/7, and dear daughter is homeschooled. I remind dear husband maybe a dozen times to let mother-in-law know he's going to be busy, because she seems to need him every time he's got a day off. 8 a.m. Mother-in-law is knocking at the door. It's got to be an emergency since she knows we're wanting to spend some family time today, right? I open the door, and force a smile onto my face asking WTF she's doing here, ignores my question, and asks where dear husband is. Well, mother-in-law, it's his day off. He's sleeping in. Now I'm going to ask again. WTF are you doing here? She replies saying she's got a doctor's appointment at 9, and dear husband promised to take her. That's when I know she's lying. He wouldn't dare promise something like that knowing he was looking forward to today. Well, I'm not going to wake my husband, so I tell her about our plans we've got today. I tell her there's no way dear husband would be able to take her, and she's got to take herself. And right away, she's got some reason why she cannot take herself. Poor old her eye is twitching, and she doesn't want to get in an accident. Her legs are tired, she can't possibly drive in her condition. Well, how'd you get here? That's when she knows she's caught. Now she's demanding to see dear husband because I'm being just oh so awful to her. I finally give up. Go wake dear husband up. Tell him what's going on. And what does he say? She's lying. Well, no crap. Dear husband goes to talk to his mother, and now she's throwing a tantrum. This 50-something years old woman is literally stomping her feet, and over-exaggerating her pain. Dear husband is trying to be civil, offers to call brother-in-law to take her instead. But no, cause she supposedly called him first, and he's busy. I ask what about her other 6 kids, cause there's no way in hell they are all coincidentally busy. But lo and behold, what do you know? They are. Dear husband lays it down as simple as if you could drive 30 minutes, past the doctor's office, to my house, you can do the same damn thing again. Now this is where she goes on about how nobody cares about family, and she could drop dead in a blink of an eye since she cannot make it to the drive. Don't make promises you can't keep, lady. Anyways, since she seen her guilt tripping was not working, she left, with an attitude. Some hours go by, and we're watching a movie when this woman starts blowing up dear husband's phone. Then my phone. She went back to back even after us sending her messages to stop calling. The calling stops, and we think she finally got the message. Lol, who are we kidding? There's a knock at the door, so dear husband goes to open it. Y'all. This lady walks in with a smug smile on her face, puts on this show of forgetting we had plans of spending the day at home, and starts asking if we want to go to dinner at 2 in the afternoon. I know that smile, and act all too freaking well. It's the same smile and act that she gave when she thought she got away with being in the delivery room after being told to leave. The same smile and act she gave when she caused an unnecessary scene at my wedding. I could go on and on. Dear husband has had it. Actually no, he has been had it. He started raising his voice, yelling at her. I don't think I've ever been more in love with this man than I was in that moment. Years of her crap, And he's finally had beyond enough. I'm proud of him." She had a shocked expression on her face. You all know that one Pokemon meme? That kind of expression. She left in a huff. We haven't heard from her or her flying monkeys yet. I hope to never hear from them again. Her main goal was to ruin this day, and she succeeded. Now that I'm 100% sure dear husband is out of the fear obligation guilt state of being, we're going to work on going no contact, and definitely spend quality time with dear daughter tomorrow. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories delivered to you. Thanks for listening. See you later.